Hi, I'm David Hawks with Agile Velocity, and today I'd like to talk to you about how we handle risk in Agile differently than how we handle risk in traditional development. So here's a traditional waterfall project. So we start off with our requirements, and then from there we're going to do our design. Let's say this is a 5-month project. We do a month of requirements, month of design, 2 months of development, and then we do testing at the end, right? Now, let's say you're the project manager and we're going along. We get to the end of the requirements phase, and all the requirements are done, and everybody's reviewed the document, everybody's signed off on it. Is this project green, yellow, or red, right? Like we're probably reporting a green status. Now we get to the end of design. We're done at the end of month 2. We've got everybody reviewed. We're still green. We've told everybody we're green. Now we get to the end of dev. Let's say that we're at the end of dev. All the code is done. It's checked in. The build is passing. And so we report again that the project is green. But what do you think is going to happen halfway through testing? Right? Probably somewhere around here, we're going to report that we went red. And why did we report that we went red all of a sudden? Right? And the reason for that is this is the first point that we're validating anything upstream, like that the code works, the code didn't break anything else, that it meets the design, that it meets the requirements. And all of a sudden we're red. We go to our management team and they're like, oh my gracious, what happened? You've been reporting that the project has been green for, what? At this point, we told everybody we were 80% done. What were we 80% done with at this point? We're 80% done with our plan, our schedule, probably our budget, but we're not 80% ready to ship, right? We don't have 80% of the features done. So what we would want to do at the end in the middle of test, right, is all of a sudden we look at what are our options on what we can do. We're 2 weeks from the delivery date. What can we consider on how to salvage this project? So the options that we have are things like we could add more time. We could extend the date. We could test less, right? So do less testing or fix less bugs, right? So we're not going to get as high a quality out, right? So really, let me rewrite that. Really what we're doing at this point is we are sacrificing quality, right? So time and quality are our main levers. Some people will say, well, we could cut features. Well, can we? We've already done all the requirements, design, and development. The features are there. We can only hide those features or not test and deliver those features with quality. We could throw more people at it, which is probably going to affect quality. And we're actually, if we pull people from another project, it's affecting time of that project. Right? These aren't good options. And the reason for that is because we have what I call the Risk Iceberg Problem. So every project has risk. The problem is this. The problem is that the water line is up here and we cannot see below the water line. We're up here, and for 80% of the time, right, from here to here, all we could see was the tip of the iceberg. But then when we got to test, all of a sudden we look underneath the water line and we see that there's a whole lot of risk. There's a lot of issues. Those risks show up in the form of defects and bugs, right? And all of a sudden we find out that that thing was there the whole time, but we just couldn't see it because we've been working in a way that's focused on assuming that all our requirements are right and assuming that our design is right and assuming our developers will write good code, that then we just have to verify it at the end. But the problem is that we get to verification and we fall on our face. Right? So what do we want to do? How do we solve this from an Agile perspective? What we do is we are going to work, let's talk down here about Agile. What we're going to do is we are going to work in sprints. And the goal of a sprint is to get to a potentially shippable product increment. The way that we do that is that we complete requirements, design, and develop and test every single sprint, right? So every 2 weeks, we are going to get something tested and fixed, right? We're going to fix the bugs. so that we are delivering something that is a potentially shippable product increment every 2 weeks. And principle number 7 of the Agile Manifesto says that working software is our primary measure of progress. Now, if we look at working software as our primary measure of progress up here, at the end of requirements, we had 0% working software, we had 0% at the end of design, we had 0% working validated software at the end of dev. Now, in Waterfall, we said we're 80% complete. Agile would say we're 0% complete because we have nothing of value we can deliver, and we're what, 4/5 of the way through, 80% of the way through our plan, and we have no value. But in Agile, what we're doing is saying we're going to work on features and get them done at the end of every sprint. And if we, by the end of sprint 1, finish 2 out of 10 features, and let's say they're all similar size, we would say that we are 20% complete and mean it. Right? And if we finished at the end of sprint 2, 4 out of 10 features, we would say we're 40% complete and mean it. We could ship 40% of the functionality right now because it's tested and working. And that allows, by doing that, that allows us to engage with our stakeholders and potentially change the priority of the things we haven't worked on yet. It allows us to deliver value earlier. It has a lot of gains, but one of the biggest gains is it leads to predictability because we don't have this risk iceberg problem up here, right? Because what we're doing is every sprint, we are assessing the risk, right? We're doing the testing in every sprint. We are looking underneath the waterline, and we're able to address or mitigate those risks, right? And we mitigate bugs by fixing them, right? And closing those bugs, and that keeps it, makes sure we have a good quality state every sprint. And if we do that, if we're 4 out of 10 and we're halfway through the schedule here, well then we would probably say that we're yellow, right? We're not green at that point. We're not on track. We're not necessarily way off track, but we're at least at a warning stage. We have early warning indicators in Agile, and that allows us to mitigate these risks. And so let's look at our options of what we can consider if we get behind in an Agile initiative. Is that first we could let's change to a color that we can see better. What we could do is reduce scope, right? So we could say, you know what, we're going to push 2 features to our next release or our next sprint, right? So we could push 2 things out. So we could reduce scope. We could still add time. So we could add another sprint into this release. And so we could do that. But what we don't have is a sacrifice quality, right? That's not an option anymore because we're investing in quality all along, right? And by investing in quality all along, that's what's allowing us to reduce the risk of delivery and allowing us to just be more predictable throughout an Agile development. Thank you.